Just as with the residents of North Carolina in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene in October, the agony of Los Angeles residents uprooted by California wildfires has been exacerbated by a flood of misinformation. And challenging the lies may be even tougher after Meta announced that Facebook, Instagram, and Threads are doing away with outside fact checkers and shifting to a, quote, community notes model where users will have to flag misinformation themselves. Here's what President Biden had to say about that change yesterday.
It's just completely contrary to everything America's about. We want to tell the truth. And the idea that, a billionaire can buy something and say, by the way, from this point on, we're not gonna fact check anything. And when you have millions of people going online, reading this stuff, it is, anyway. I think it's really shameful.
Shameful is right. And as if that weren't bad enough, Meta is also rolling back many of its rules against hate speech. According to a training document obtained by The Intercept, Meta teams will no longer take down posts attacking immigrants as, quote, trash, or trans people as, quote, immoral. The New York Times reports Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg decided to make the sweeping changes to the company's speech policies after meeting with Donald Trump in November. And according to the Times, Zuckerberg made a second visit to Mar-a-Lago just last night. As Status newsletter founder Oliver Darcy writes, quote, Mark Zuckerberg seems to have decided that kissing Donald Trump's ring wasn't enough. Now he's slobbering all over it. Joining me now is Oliver Darcy, media reporter and founder of the Status newsletter. Oliver, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. So first, just talk about Mark Zuckerberg and what he's doing and why he's doing it. Why now?
Yeah, I think we need to look at the context, right? And so before Donald Trump was elected, Donald Trump was threatening to throw Mark Zuckerberg in jail, right? He was threatening to use the government to target his company, to target Meta, and to make life very difficult for Mark Zuckerberg. And I think now that Donald Trump's won office, you're clearly seeing this effort by Zuckerberg to, bend the knee to Donald Trump, hoping, I think, that Donald Trump will not retaliate against him and his company. Because even if you go further back, Donald Trump was livid that Mark Zuckerberg and these other tech titans banned him from their platforms in the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection. And so, there's a lot of bad blood there from a few years ago. Mark Zuckerberg now does not want to be regulated, does not want Donald Trump as his enemy. And so he is really doing everything in his power to suck up to Donald Trump.
Well, Oliver, there's bending the knee to Donald Trump, and then there's drinking the Kool-Aid. Listen to what Mark Zuckerberg said yesterday. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast yesterday. Just listen to this.
Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then all these different agencies and branches of government basically just started investigating and coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Again, there's bending the knee, and then there's drinking the Kool-Aid. My listening to that, it sounds like he's going full MAGA.
I think he does believe a lot of this stuff. I think Meta and a lot of these other tech companies were frustrated with some of the pressure and scrutiny they faced, particularly during the pandemic. I think it's really rich, though, that Mark Zuckerberg is making Biden sound like the tyrant, given that the guy he's sucking up to literally threatened to throw him in jail. I mean, one of the most plainly un-American things that some future president could do at the time. And apparently Zuckerberg doesn't take any issue with any of that. He goes after Joe Biden and sort of characterizes him as this autocrat when, again, he's sucking up to the wannabe autocrat. I don't know what to make of that. But I do think that he is legitimately, he is frustrated or genuinely frustrated with, I think, some of the scrutiny he faced from the news media and Biden administration during the pandemic.
Now, the shift at Meta isn't just coming from Zuckerberg. It's coming from people within the organization. On Tuesday, Meta's new chief affairs officer, a former Bush advisor, gave an interview to Fox and Friends, and he called the Trump presidency, and I'm quoting, an opportunity to reset the balance in favor of free expression. And then in another instance, it appears as though Meta is using sort of the conservatives' framing of free speech versus censorship. Between the policy changes and you know, this Meta officer saying this is an opportunity to reset the balance in favor of free expression, Oliver, why is free expression always have to be balanced, it seems, in favor of the conservative point of view?
Yeah, I mean, it's notable even that the now top policy advisor over at Meta is this Republican official. You know, before it was Nick Clegg, a prominent liberal UK politician. And Nick Clegg took a lot of, you know, he criticized Elon Musk, for instance, for some of the misinformation on that platform. And then earlier, you know, in the past few weeks, Zuckerberg pushed basically Nick Clegg out and appointed Joel Kaplan, who's this Republican official, to lead policy. Now they're doing hits on Fox News. They're going on Joe Rogan. So this is, again, part of this concerted effort. But I do think what you're getting at, you do see that tension. There is this tension between free speech. I think everyone wants free speech, but also the ramifications that come with free speech. And if you're spreading misinformation, particularly during the pandemic about life-saving vaccines, you know, how do you, if you're Mark Zuckerberg, how do you manage that? Do you let your algorithms amplify that speech? Do you let it run rampant when it has real-world consequences? Meta in the past, you know, maybe 6 or 7 years, 8 years, they have decided that that's dangerous, and they had systems in place to limit misinformation, to fact check important things. Now you're seeing with Donald Trump coming in office that they're really throwing away a lot of the work they had done in this area. And it's obviously impossible to ignore the fact that Donald Trump hates fact checking. He wants to have these platforms allow him to get his lies across to millions of people without being fact checked. Mark Zuckerberg now is giving him exactly what he wants.
Oliver Darcy, unfortunately, we're going to be having this conversation a lot over the next 4 years. Thank you very much for coming to the Saturday Show.